Hey guys, Jordan here. Today we're going to be running a PC with the new Intel Core Ultra 5 245K and the Intel Arc B580 graphics card. Now this video is kindly being sponsored by Intel, and these products are going to be part of Intel Gamer Days that starts from August 25th through to September 14th. Intel will be running special promotions with discounts on the latest Intel Power products, making it a great time to pick up new hardware at lower than usual prices. Plus, if you grab eligible products during this period, you'll also get a free copy of Battlefield 6 when it launches later in the year. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm really looking forward to Battlefield 6. And I'm definitely going to be adding that to my testing suite for future content. Now, as usual for these builds, I will also run you through the details of the parts I'm using as we go. Then at the end, we'll give you a close-up look. Plus, we'll run it through the usual benchmarking suite, which now includes Grounded 2, a title that I can see a lot of people playing on the more affordable graphics cards, like the B580 that we have here. So first, we'll get everything onto the motherboard, and then we can get that into the case. Now for the motherboard, I'm going to be using the MSI Tomahawk B860. Like most of the B860 and Z890 options, it offers support for Gen 5 storage, DDR5 memory, and plenty of high-speed USB and PCIe connectivity. So regardless of the exact board you go with, you'll get solid performance, modern features, and lots of I/O for expansion. Now the processor, as I mentioned, is going to be the Intel Core Ultra 5 245K, a 14-core and 14-thread beast with a turbo frequency of 5.2 GHz. This is a great balanced CPU that doesn't break the bank, a great choice for those that are looking to build a more gaming specific PC, be it at 1080p, 1440p or 4K resolutions. Also, because this is part of Intel Gamer Days, you can pick it up for less than usual RRP, which makes it an even better value if you're looking to upgrade right now. So let's get the CPU installed. We'll lift our arm up on our motherboard and bring that socket open, and then let's pop open the case for our CPU. Make sure we've got it the right way up, drop it in, give it a little bit of a wiggle, and then that top will pop off, and that's all installed. So onto the memory, I'm going to be using the Clev Cras V RGB DDR5 here. I've got a 32GB kit of 6000 MHz, cast latency 28, so nice and low timing. This is also an XMP3 certified kit, so we can easily set the speed to its rated timings with one click. Now you can go much faster with memory if you'd like to. Intel are supporting extremely high frequencies on this generation, but for this one I'm going to stick to 6000 as it's just what I've got on hand. We'll get these installed into slots 2 and 4. Make sure we line up the notches. Get a nice click. Line up our second stick and get that clicked into place. For storage, we're going to be using the Clev Cras C910 Gen 4 1TB NVMe. It's going to be available up to 4TB sizes, but for most 1 to 2TB will be more than enough. This offers a read speed of 5000 megabits per second and a write of 4800 megabits per second. Now included in the box, you also do get a little heatsink to put on the top, but as we've got one on our motherboard, I'm going to leave it off for this installation. So we can just do our easy quick release latch for our socket there. Then we take our drive, put that in at 45 degrees. Push that down and then rotate our latch so it stays in place, and then pop back on our little cover. That's all installed. I'm going to get the cooler ready now. That's something you can do later if you like to. It's more down to personal preference. Now for this one, we're going to be using the Be Quiet Light Loop 360. 360mm is a little overkill for the Ultra 5. They do have a 240 available too, but this would suit a potential upgrade in the future. Plus it'll match our case, making it look great too. So here is our pump top, nice little design, a little bit different from what we've seen from Be Quiet before. Got a variable PWM pump on this as well, from 1500 to 2900 RPM. The no usual support for sockets, so AM4, AM5, LG115X and 1200, the square ones, then the rectangular 1700, and finally 1851. Of course, we'll be using that one here today. You also get a nice little bottle of coolant if you need to refill it. Nice addition. So these are the Lightwing Alex fans. We've got the same in the case we're going to be using today as well. So great if you, like me, a little bit OCD about all the fans matching. Got an Intel backplate, 1700 and 1851. That's all in one packet as well, which is nice, keeps it all together. So in terms of orientation, I'm going to look to install the cooler like this in our case. So then I'll have the fans with the cables at the back, so they're out of the way once we rotate it over. So something like that, and we get all those screwed in. So on this back plate, we've got some little pegs that go through, then we're going to secure them with a little rubber ring. Currently, the smaller one is set to the LGA5X or the LGA1200, and then the outside ones are slightly more rectangular for LGA1700 and 1851, which are the ones we're going to need. So we'll just adjust those to the outside like so, then get our little rubber securer on. There we go, all of those pegs are now on and secured. We can now put that at the back of our motherboard. Get that pushed through. There you go, all of those threads are now showing. And we can get our little standoffs installed as well. We now have the standoffs installed. We've also got these little brackets that support 1700, also the rectangular ones as well, but we will be using the further ones for these, so they'll just go on the top there, like so. And then we'll screw into those standoffs with the last 4 screws that are included. So that's now our backplate all installed. This can now go into our case along with the cooler. Then we'll get our pump block down onto the CPU. And we'll just install our power supply, graphics card, and we'll see if it boots. So for the case, I've gone with the Be Quiet Light Base 600FX. It's a little bit more expensive, but it has 4 pre-installed Lightwing LX fans, so we don't need to worry about adding any extras, as we've got 3 on the cooler. So that's already kitted out. You've got a fully windowed front and then also an RGB strip down the side. It's also really versatile. You can switch it to a horizontal or vertical type layout. You can even do it like a coffee table if you like to. And then you've also got support for rear connect motherboards as well, if you're using one of those. So we get this flat, then we can get our motherboard installed. So there's a little look inside the case. We've got reverse blade fans on the right, so you're not going to see any of the ugly case frame. And then we'll get our motherboard and then bring this down in, get this lined up, find the middle peg, then we'll get that screwed in. So that is now the motherboard installed. I'm now going to get the power supply in, as it makes cable management a little bit easier with our EPS connectors, especially as I've got fat fingers and I'm going to be installing an AIO. You can of course do this bit after if you like to, but I'm going to do it now. For this one, we're going to use the Enermax Marbleron 2 850 power supply. This is a great price to performance power supply. It's also an 80 plus bronze unit, semi-modular, so it's got the required cables on, which you're going to need for any build. Then we can obviously add on any extras that we need. We've got our bag of cables. Our power supply, obviously you'll get the right one for your region. This is just because it was sent from the factory. And then we've got our semi-modular unit with the pre-installed ones that we're going to need anyway. So here's our additional cables that we just need to plug in. So we've got one SATA and Rolex. And then we've also got our PCIe. So I'm just going to take the hard drive cage out. We're not going to need that for this build. And there's also a SATA there for our power. That will obviously get plugged in. That's one of the additional ones I've added onto our power supply. So then this will just go in up at the top there. Make sure not to squash anything as we install it. And it'll just sit in like so. There we go, and we get that screwed in. Now I totally missed this because of the angle I was stood at, but there's also a hub at the bottom of the case as well, so we're not going to need any adapters, which is nice. So that's screwed in. We'll get a couple of the cables routed through that we're going to need. So there's our PCIe, of course our 24 pin. Let's just get these untangled, and then we'll put our 24 pin through as well. And then we've also got our EPS connectors that will go up to the top of the board, so they're going to go through this left-hand section as they're on the right of our motherboard that we're using for this build. Then we've also got our things like our front panel and then also our headers to pass through as well. Then we'll just lay this down and we can get these cables connected. So we've got our EPS connectors at the top here for our motherboard. There's 1 and then 2. I really like the cables that Enermax uses on this power supply. They're very soft and supple. They remind me a lot of the Asus Tough power supply cables. Then we've also got our 24 pin. This one will need a little bit of a bend. Obviously it's been sat in the box, so it will be a bit used to going against that, but we can have a little bit of a change. That's now in. The ones for the graphics card I might bring further down actually, just so they can come up rather than go over. So I'll just adjust that. So that's now coming from the bottom, so we can then just plug straight in. I may zip tie these together as well, just to keep it a little bit tidier, as we'll only need 1 8-pin for our graphics card. We're going to bring our cooler in from the other side. A little bit tricky for me to do, but I want to do it so you guys can see it. And then we'll just find a nice place for it to line up and get it screwed in. So we get our top back on now that's installed, and then we'll get this flat for some thermal paste. So there we go, all ready to apply. We'll just do a nice little line there. There we go. So I made a little bit of a boo-boo. I installed the brackets for this cooler down the side, so actually go top and bottom. I'm used to coolers that have them on the side, so it was just second nature to do it like that. But I've now got them the right way around, and we've just got a peel to remove on our pump, and then we can get that down and screwed in. I'm going to do a couple of screws on each side and then swap over so we get a nice even mounting pressure. Don't worry, it sounds worse than it is. So all the way down like so. So now I'm just going to do some of the cable routing, get that all connected up, and then we can get our graphics card in. We are now all connected up. I've put everything onto the hub that I can, using the one at the bottom. So we've got all of our cooling fans here on those that are RGB as well. I've got the pump connected into the block that also goes down to the RGB connectors at the bottom. And then we've also got the PWM for the fan control at the bottom here. And then also the 5-volt adjustable for the hub there as well. That then goes around with a 24 pin. Might tidy that up a little bit as well, just to kind of keep those together. And then we can get our graphics card installed. Really happy with this so far though. It's actually a really nice case to build in. So of course our graphics card is going to be the Intel Arc B580. The Arc B series is running next-gen Xe2 architecture for better efficiency and AI features such as XeSS2, giving high FPS and smoother gameplay. It also features up to twice the performance in ray trace titles, plus XeLL for lower latency, ensuring your inputs are more responsive. Also, if you're wondering, the B580 outpaces the previous gen Arc A750 and offers better price per pound than the competitors in the £200 to £250 range. So we've got a couple of brackets to take out. We're going to take out the second and third for this graphics card. And we'll get this slotted in. There we go. Bring the latch back across. And then we'll use the same screws to get it screwed into place. And finally our power, just a single 8-pin as I mentioned. We'll get that installed like so. And then we'll get the rest of the cable tucked down and away. But now we're done. Let's see if it posts. We'll come around to this side for this bit. Let's have a look. Oh, it's looking good. Love the power strip. Oh, RGB all on. Now, nice little touch on the case. You've got RGB control, so we can just go through some different colors here as well. There's the RGB, the old favorite. So really happy with how this has come out. I'm now going to get XMP enabled and then get into the BIOS and make sure everything's okay there. Then we'll give you a nice cinematic close-up look and then we'll close out the video. I hope you enjoyed that closer look at our finished system. I think it looks epic. I've put this through the usual benchmark suite and I've run those figures across the screen for you guys that are wondering about those. Now it's also worth mentioning while you look at those charts that I test in 1440p high just to keep things fair across the board. If I test every graphics card like that, it's easy then to compare to other graphics cards in the future. Or if we maybe do this card to compare to another one, it's easy to tell the differences apart. If I were to go for 1080p, you could obviously expect higher frame rates, especially if you want to max it out in 1080p. Or if you're going to use low 1440p, you can expect higher frame rates. But this just basically sets a standard. And of course, any changes you make to improve upon it is obviously a benefit. Now, it's also worth mentioning that Grounded 2 is early access. So the frame rate for that is pretty janky at the moment. But that's obviously going to be optimized in the future. And you can expect better frame rates the further we get to the actual launch. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Of course, if there's anything else that you'd like to know, then do leave a comment down below and I'll get back to you. I'll leave the links for all the parts that I've used in this build if you want to pick any up or even if you want to replicate the build. Also check out the Intel Gamer Days deals where you can grab some great savings and even get yourself a free copy of Battlefield 6 when it launches. Can't wait for that. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like and get subscribed so you don't miss any future uploads. Thank you to Intel for sponsoring today's build and I'll see you all in the next one.